fiction. And every single one of our finalists have achieved amazing things. Their storytelling is exceptional, their audio is exemplary. I'm constantly in awe of the caliber of content that are being produced. I'm hoping that we might get a bit of an insight as to how it all began and why. But first, I would love for each of them to start the ball rolling with a quick intro of themselves and their podcast, a little bit of a pitch to the audience to get them intrigued as to what they're doing. And Diana, we're going to throw to you first.
Okay. Hi, I'm Diana Woody, and my podcast is Company Christmas, and it's a Cold War comedy spy spoof involving spies and intrigue and the sort. And it's loosely based on my dad, who was a spy at the Cold War time, and but it's all comedy. Most of it's just made up, but yeah, it's about a dad who goes to the middle of nowhere to get groceries and is gone for several hours, and everyone kind of thinks he's up to something and he's a spy.
Thank you. Jonah, can you tell us a little bit about yours?
Sure. So I'm in Canada, and we don't have a lot of audio fiction here, but I wanted to create something that was bigger because my mind is always getting big ideas, and I knew that this kind of stories I wanted to tell would take huge Hollywood budgets. So I created so this medium fit me really well. So I did a sci-fi audio drama called Felix Space Pirate, and it's where this is our first episode for the standalone category. In this show, we follow Felix and the crew of the Royal Witch as they traverse the stars, and then they come across the only human that any of them have ever met. And they have to decide whether or not to aid this amnesiac girl in finding her way home or use her incredible skills for their own gain. So that's where the tension comes in, and our characters go on their journeys from there.
Fantastic. Jane, could you tell us a little bit about Spike Day?
Sure. So I'm Jane Watson. Spiked Eggs is an anthology short fiction episodes, very satirical, tongue-in-cheek. I was a big fan of audio fiction for years, and I come from a filmmaking background, and I see this as just another way to tell stories. And the particular episode that I submitted to the New Zealand Web Fest is called Bingo After Dark, and it is a sort of a cat and mouse game between two assassins in a swamp in New Jersey. So it's a crime, a crime episode. The rest of the episodes, it's very different. The rest of the series are more where we take fables and mash them up with into a everyday modern society with humans, and make fable characters go through what we're going through in society today. But Bingo After Dark is a crime, true crime, murder mystery thing.
Fantastic. Matthew, tell us a little bit about yourself and Operator.
Well, thank you very much for having me today, and congratulations to all the nominees in this category. But my name is Matthew P. Warner. I'm with Audio Imagination 77 Productions. We are located in the Seattle, Washington area. And I am the writer, producer, and director of Operator, which is an original story based on an actual event that took place 86 years ago now. And that is on the night of October 30th, 1938. Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the Air did their broadcast of War of the Worlds and caused quite a panic amongst the United States. People actually thought that we were being attacked by aliens from Mars, and it turned into this big hoopla. And I wanted to create a show about that night and the events that took place from the point of view of the telephone operator, because back then they would have been considered the first responders of that time, whereas now we have police and firefighters and EMTs. But you went to the operator first, and it was just more than patching you from person A to person B. It was giving them information. And from all the studying I did on the topic, which was about 8 months worth of research, nothing had really been touched on this. And so I wanted to give these brave women their credit and their due. And so that is what it's about.
Thank you. And Lance, can you tell us a little bit about London After Midnight?
Sure. I'm Lance Roger Axe of Pocket Universe Productions. I'm actually 2 hours away from you, Matthew, in Bellingham, Washington. And London After Midnight is my collaboration with Jack Bowman and Kenton Hall in the United Kingdom, which is, and I want to say essentially, I'm saying it is the only audio adaptation of the lost horror classic London After Midnight, which has not been seen in well over 70 years. The only thing surviving of the original production starring Lon Chaney being the screenplay, and we adapted it into a full cast audio drama, doing what the Brits I think do better than anybody, and that's tell really, really good ghost stories, and that's what we have for you this Halloween.
A perfectly timed, excellent segue. just like Diana's tree. So I'd love to know how everyone got started in podcasting. Joni, do you want to take that one first?
Sure. Yeah, as I sort of alluded to before, my brain's always bursting with ideas, and they're always science fiction fantasy. So I always had ideas of big stories, and it would take way too much to realize them, either live action or in animation. So audio always seemed like the fun way to do it, or the most possible way to do it. And I always enjoyed listening to things on the go. I think it's a perfect way to consume audio, consume a book, consume content. And so I just got started with writing one day. I had an idea back in university a long time ago, and I just thought, now I have the time. I'm a substitute teacher, so as soon as I got out of school, I thought I now have time to focus on a project. And Felix was the one that I chose, and that rest is sort of history for now. A lot of history to be written, but I've been working for the past year or so on this one episode, and then we will have a more to come the start of the new year, holiday 2024. So that is what we'll re-release the pilot and have episode 2, and then be airing episodes from there. So looking forward to that.
Jane, how did you get started in the podcast? You've got that background that just did it naturally transfer to audio?
I was a fan first. I don't even remember. I think I just found that little icon on my smartphone, the purple little icon. I was like, what was this? And I've literally found podcasts that way. Nobody I knew listened to podcasts. And I just kind of wandered into the world of drama, of audio fiction, fell in love with it, and was a fan, and kept telling myself, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. Listening to, and that it just kind of evolved into it. It took me a long time. It took me a long time to get there to get my act together and launch the podcast. But yeah, fan first, and then took the plunge. Yeah.
Yeah. Lance, what about you?
I started this wacky, nutty journey in 2003, actually. Originally under the name Play It By Ear Productions, because as an actor in New York, I couldn't find work for myself. And my teachers at my grad school said, when you can't find work, you have to make it yourself. No one's going to come handing it to you on a silver platter. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting at home by the phone waiting to ring for hours on end and doing things that have absolutely nothing to do with your career, except make you go stagnant. So Pocket Universe came out of ultimately Play It By Ear Productions, which I had from 2003 until 2010, producing 4 one-acts for public radio when public radio actually played audio dramas, as well as an old-time radio theater company in Monterey where I was living at the time, and an original show I did in New Mexico. And then I met my business partner, Bill Dufries, who is better known as the voice of Bob the Builder. And Bill had major ties to the audiobook industry as one of the most celebrated audiobook narrators, not just in the country, but I think in the entire world, with over 1,000 to his credit. Wow. And he and I started doing a company called Audio Comics, which was essentially taking creator-owned comic books and turning them into full cast audio dramas, but making them exclusively available to the audiobook community, so we could try to make some of our money back, because these are not inexpensive productions in any way, shape, or form. But that led us to working with Audible on productions of Lock and Key before the TV series happened. And then the big one, The X-Files, with David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson. Since then, the pandemic caused a whole bunch of problems, and as well as my business partner dying from esophageal cancer. Since then, I have done about 12.5 productions for Scholastic Entertainment, the publishers of Harry Potter. And the big one, so to speak, since Bill passed away, has been London After Midnight, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
Fantastic. Matthew, what's your story?
I have been a fan of old time radio since I was 8. And and I listen to them religiously daily. I love them more than music. And I've been a storyteller since I was about 6. Not a very good one, obviously, at 6, but I've kind of gotten a little better over the years. But I went to film school after high school because I wanted to be, the next big director. And after that, I saved money for a couple of years. I shot my first full-length feature, and I gotta be honest, it was horrible. So I did not do anything for the longest time. And then during the pandemic, I was working for myself doing maintenance for commercials, businesses. And once everything shut down here in Washington, I was off for so long, and I was fortunate enough to have had a little savings. And through that and the support of my wife, she said I could build a studio in the garage. And I said, hey, I love audio dramas. I'd like to take a shot at one. And so she allowed me to take over the garage. And so I built a little studio. I found other actors who were in the area that were affected by the pandemic and not being able to go on stage, that just wanted to act super bad. And so we got together and we did one. And then Operator's the 4th. I've done 5 since starting in 2020. And Operator was definitely the biggest one to date with the biggest cast. And I just plan on keep on going. And I absolutely love everything about audio drama and old time radio.
Fantastic. And Diana?
I'm like Matthew. I grew up on old timey radio, and I'm listening to today. Like, I liked Inner Sanctum. I like they're doing a Halloween feature recently. So like Inner Sanctum and all that, and the campier, the better, basically. So, that's my cat, Lily. She loves Zooms, and she's talking about Halloween decoration, I guess. But, so I've been listening to those for years, and I'm actually a scientist that pays for my money, pays for things. But I've been writing ever since I was a kid. My story's almost like Matthew's, basically. And I've always been writing, and I kind of started making movies. I started making screenplays, and then I turned some of them into movies. And then I started, like, with the pandemic and kind of like with Lance, it's like, well, it's kind of expensive to put together, or maybe it was Jonah, put together those. So I thought, well, let's make some radio plays. So I'm systematically going through all the screenplays I've done, and they've won awards and stuff like that. And I'm turning them all into radio plays, or I'm kind of also learning animation too. So I turned one into an animation, but I think I have like 1, 2, 3, 4 ones. 2 are ghost stories, and 1 is just something my husband and I did during the pandemic. And Company Christmas is my latest one. And we also performed it on stage too. So we did it we had everybody standing up and doing it. And the funnest part is putting together the sound effects. I love collecting the sound effects and putting them together. So for Company Christmas and for the last 2, for all of them, I've been doing that. So I'm doing the editing. I have someone who does music, or I find it on those free sites. And I've just kind of taught myself to do all that, like the editing and the sound. But it is fun to find the sound effects, because the whole walking, it's always louder than real walking would be, right? It's a clunk, clunk, clunk.
It is
true.
Yeah, and they threw a couple stings in for Company Christmas, and they told everybody that when we did it on stage, or when we did it, it's like,
camp it up, total camp it up kind of thing. So
We'll make it over the top so you get that theater of the mind.
Yeah. And so I plan to make turn all my screenplays that I have into radio plays and put them on stage too.
It's fantastic. So why this particular story, guys? Why tell this particular story? Was there any sort of deep-seated reason that this is the one that you needed to bring to the listeners? I'm just going to throw it open to anyone.
For me, my dad was a spy, like I told you, but kind of before I was born. So we did all this stuff, and he would go out to Frederick, which is basically the middle of nowhere, and because we lived in Washington, D.C. area, and spend a couple hours getting groceries and then come back. And for some reason, later on, we took it as normal. But then my brother and I said, "Do you think he was still doing missions after he was supposed to be retired?" I said, "Yeah." And that was the instigation for it. But because of the story, I said it earlier so that they could have met, two of the characters could have met during World War II. And I found that kind of an interesting thing, how, 1 minute we're friends, 1 minute we're allies with some country, and then we're not allies, and how that kind of stuff switches. So that was the instigation for it.
It was like, we've heard Matthew telling about how he really wanted this to be this story to be told because he didn't think that the women got the recognition. Jane, your mystery, you've got that sort of murder mystery. What made you decide that this was the story you needed to tell?
So I have a writing partner, Frank Donnelly, and he would throw out these ideas, and he said, I want to do something about these two people carrying a body through a pond. I have a pond right here by my house, and the sounds and things that I put into the episode is what I hear all the time when the frogs and things get going. So I liked that idea of that world of two people carrying this body in a bag through a swamp. But the thing particularly about this episode, I like the idea that there's real evil lurking in the most mundane places where you don't expect it. This is a story of a senior citizen woman who is a ruthless killer mobster who happens to enjoy bingo, and she attends the bingo games every Saturday night in the Bronx at St. Clementine's. So this woman is sitting amongst all these other people. They're totally not expecting who she is. No one is as they appear to be. And that's really what I liked about this episode. My input was that she should be flying way under the radar. Like nobody would ever suspect the lady in the house coat is the ruthless killer. So that was my input into it and what I pushed for when he said, let's do a story about two people carrying a body in a swamp. So
that's great. Lance, what was London After Midnight? Why was that the one that you chose?
Okay. I need to explain what London After Midnight was before it became an audio drama. London After Midnight was a silent film made in 1927. And it is considered one of the most successful horror thriller silent films ever made, not just because of the storyline, but also, well, two other reasons. First being Lon Chaney and what Lon Chaney brought to that particular part of the role of the man in the beaver hat. Mm-hmm. That outfit, that makeup, that persona has resonated with horror fans for years. It is the basis for Gene Simmons' demon character in Kiss, to give you an example. It is one of the most iconic characters really in horror fiction or horror film, maybe a better way to put it. And the other reason why it's so special amongst fans is the fact that the last known copy of London After Midnight was destroyed in a fire at MGM in 1965, along with a whole bunch of other silent films from 1910 and 1920. They were all silver nitrate. I think, if I remember correctly, it was actually a screw up with the caught on fire, and it was all silver nitrate. So everything went up, including supposedly the last known copy of London After Midnight. And there have been legends permeating amongst horror fans and along the internet for decades now, that there must be one other copy of London After Midnight out there. And rumors have flown for years that that there's this copy somewhere in Africa, or this copy somewhere in Eastern Europe. I mean, they found an entire Doctor Who serial in South Africa, Tomb of the Cybermen. So if that could be found, maybe London After Midnight could be found. But so far, no pertinent leads. However, my partner in crime, one of my partners in crime, Jack Bowman in the United Kingdom, let me know about a year ago that year London After Midnight was entering the public domain. What do you think about making an audio drama out of it? Because the film is gone, but the script is still around. And this would be the first opportunity for horror fans to really experience London After Midnight for the first time in 70 years. So I said, you know what, let's do it. That sounds like a lot of fun, because if there's one thing that the Brits know how to do, I think better than anyone, is, like I said earlier, is tell a good ghost story. And that's ultimately what this is. It's not a piece about vampires or the undead. I saw it as a ghost story, and I wanted to maintain the Britishness of it. That's a new word I just made up. And that's when Jack brought in Kenton Hall, who he'd known for several years. Kenton was part of the underground band Ist back in the late aughts, I believe it was. And he's done some work in film. He's done some work in audio. And he and I became co-writers on the piece, going back and forth, which was great, because if I went into a state of writer's block, I would just give it to him. And, he got me over the writer's block. And now my brain is, I like this. This we can cut out. This doesn't work. And slowly fashioning what turned out to be, I think, and understand, this is a guy who did the X-Files for Audible, maybe one of the best pieces I've ever done in my career, just because of the caliber attached to this thing, not just the direction from Jack, but the writing from myself and Kenton. Yes, I'm giving myself a pat on the back, but also our cast of British actors who just did an amazing job, including one actor who stepped in literally when the actor playing his part had to drop out the day before his recording session. Dan Starkey, who played Strax in Doctor Who. And just speaking as a writer, knowing that one of the best British actors out there, Art Malik from Jewel and the Crown and True Lies, is reading your words, it's a little humbling. It's quite humbling. Moreover, we managed to do this one not just in binaural sound, but also in Dolby Atmos, which I really think is going to be the future for audio drama moving forward. And I've heard this thing in Dolby Atmos, and it's absolutely astonishing. And I guess a lot of other people agree with me, because it's now won 30 awards.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So are we talking a more immersive audio experience?
Very much so. Yeah. I mean, you look at what's happening at all.
Oh,
Man was re-recorded. Dirk Meggs, the director of The Sandman, is an acquaintance. He re-recorded it in Dolby Atmos, and there is a reason why the Harry Potter series is going to be redone in the style of The Sandman, but specifically done in Dolby Atmos, because the immersiveness of it is.
I suppose it's kind of like the Mickey Mouse animation compared to what we have now with the CGI.
Very much so. Yeah, exactly.
It's more of a recent comparison. I would like to open it up for you to all tell me something about, it doesn't have to be the best moment, it doesn't have to be the proudest moment. It just has to be that one moment where it was the aha moment. It's like, yes, this is what I'm doing. Yes, this is right for me. Yeah, and it could be something as simple as a review, or a bit of feedback, or validation from your parents. It doesn't matter. Do any of you have that aha moment that just like, yeah, I'm on the right track? Yeah, Jonah.
I just want to speak to a little bit of like why what about sci-fi that that works for me, and I'll segue into that moment where everything kind of
fantastic clicks. Absolutely.
So in science fiction is the only real place that you get existential metaphors. It's something that you can try and shake someone out of their stupor, or show something in the real world that you just can't, a parallel that would get people to understand problems going on. And that's something that I really wanted to do with Felix Space Pirate, something that would be akin to, our climate issue, an existential threat. and I won't go into what that is because it is tied to the human's backstory, Amira's backstory, and that is a big thing for later in the series. But to pull, like, I wanted this band of pirates to have to try to wake people up basically and see, like, how are we going to convince them that there's this threat that's coming. Now, but to pull people in to get to that, I wanted to do it through a pulpy sci-fi adventure, to get the average consumer in a way to see this parallel. And there's this one moment where in my pilot, or in the first episode, where there's Felix is fighting people, and then we transition back to her ship, and I used the music of a band called Twerp, also known as Tupperware Remix Party. They're a Canadian band, and there's just
Great
this
name.
excellent, yeah. They have this excellent, like, drum bit with some saxophone that just fits so perfectly into that spot that I realized that we were onto something.
Yeah. And that's just that's that moment where you're just like, yes, this is it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like, I felt it. I was enjoying it, the process. We did the auditions. We had the scripts were written and all of that. But, like, when we were editing and I heard that piece of music that fit perfectly into that spot, I was like, okay, I've got something here that I'm proud of.
Oh, that's brilliant. Matthew, what about you?
I think for me, I had just, right before starting Operator, had just wrapped up a Christmas play. Almost everything I've done has been murder mystery, psychological thrillers, and then someone dared me to do a Christmas play, and to my shock, it did actually relatively well, review wise. And I kind of thought, I don't know how do I follow this up?
Yeah.
Because even though Christmas is its own genre, I really didn't know if I was like, because you want your next production to be better, or just as good, and I had no idea how I was gonna top that, with all the feedback I was getting. And so I'd been toying around with this idea for a couple of years, and I think the aha moment for me was when I was done with the script, I started sending pages to voice actors who I didn't in other parts of the United States that I've never met in person, I'd never talked to, but we had communicated, like, supporting each other on Facebook and stuff like that, because I think the audio drama space is such a special group,
Yeah.
that is really there for everybody. And when I started sending the pages out to people who have done it with budgets and have just a lot of, I guess, credits behind them, a lot of them got back to me and were like, I would love to audition for this. This sounds fascinating. And all my productions are zero budget. I've never spent a penny. I use a laptop that is about 12 years old when I was working for myself. I use software that is free that I downloaded online. And for these paid voice actors who are willing to do this, I remember turning to my wife and being like, I think I might have something here. This might actually not be that bad. And then we did it. Everyone took directions like a pro. They returned their lines to me exactly how I had hoped, because the play being based in the 30s, people spoke differently.
Yeah.
And everyone's mannerisms were different. And so for me, it felt weird, especially directing a female on, here's how you need to sound. And then they actually would return it the same way. And that was definitely my moment, that all these people, because the cast is 25 members total, and it's led by 4 incredible voice actors who I'm going to throw out their names super fast because they deserve it. Alicia Hansen, Annie DiMartino, Logan Warner, who's my daughter, and Liv Johansson were the 4 mains. And a lot of, some of them are paid voice actors, and the fact that they were just willing to do it for nothing just to be part of it was really special, and definitely my moment of aha.
Yeah. Jane, what about you?
So like a lot of people, I was saying before, I procrastinated launching the podcast for almost a decade. I suffered from imposter syndrome. Like, thousands of other people. The aha moment came when I finally pressed the button and hit publish and put the podcast out. First, it told me I can do it. I kept saying to myself, I can do this, I can do this. But I really did it. That was the day after Christmas, last Christmas. That episode that's out that I submitted to the New Zealand Web Fest was only the third episode I'd ever edited, ever done. The moment that the New Zealand Web Fest picked Spiked Eggs and London After Midnight as early submissions, those two. And I looked at your cast and what London After Midnight was about, and that you had Art Malik in it, the production. When I saw that my Spiked Eggs that I edit on my dining room table was picked as an early submission with your London After Midnight, all those years of me procrastinating because I didn't think I could do it. I didn't think I was good enough. I wanted to do it so bad. That was the aha moment, for real. That was the aha moment. So I'm really in awe that I'm here with you guys. I'm still learning. I'm still, getting through this. We've gotten 7 or 8 nominations. I just won 3 silvers at the Signal Awards in New York this past week. So the aha is like forming in my head now.
Oh my goodness, that is so gorgeous, Jane. That is so gorgeous.
And may I just say, one more thing. You emailed me to say, don't be nervous. This is just a chin wag. I love that expression. I've never heard that before. It's just a chin wag amongst creators. That must be, I've never heard it on this side of the pond, but I loved it.
Well, we are a little bit informal down this side of the world. And the thing is with talking with creators, the first time I ever had done a panel, I was up with all these incredible, amazing production companies. And my short fiction podcast is me and a mate, Posty, who works out of a shed on the Central Coast, and I'm in southern Tasmania, which is the island at the bottom of the island. And I was just there in awe, and so many people were really slick, and I had no idea what to expect. So that's why I sent the email out saying, we're just going to have a chat. This is just a chance that, a little bit of shameless publicity, a little bit of why and how. And but the aha moment is really that moment where you're just like, I know I'm doing the right thing. Diana, what was yours?
I think most of it, I think for me, it was when I was just cracking myself up doing this stuff and having so much fun. And then when I was finding those sound effects just crack me up. And the more, like Sting and anything like that. And when you put them in, how that's funny. And then we did perform it on stage. So then the feedback of getting people actually laughing at that, and that gives me an opportunity to see that. But then also, so a lot of, I'm in improv, and I also do acting. So I have a lot of friends that are actors and improv people. And so we get together. So all of them, like Company Christmas, all the rest have been basically my friends. Uber Ride was just me and my husband. And when I think the aha moment is when we're practicing it and we're cracking up and we're cracking each other up, because I love to do comedies and we're just like having a major giggle fest and everything. Yep. Such a good camaraderie because I know these people. They're my friends. They're not strangers or anything. So we kind of have a rapport. So then that's the aha moment where like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. This is just total fun. I don't know if once you get into like actually making money, it becomes
I don't think anybody does, do they?
But right now it's just like one big giggle fest for me. So and just nonstop happy. That's my happy place, and that's my aha moment.
Oh, that is brilliant. Okay, Lance. I know that this is your business, but did you have an aha moment to say that you were on the right track, that this is exactly what you wanted to do?
It's not been one moment. It's been a series of them. It's been a cascade of them. The first time that my one act's done for that I produced by New York playwrights, done for Play It By Ear Productions, were broadcast on public radio in New York City and heard by several thousand people, I understand later. hearing myself as an actor in our first production for audio comics, which was Starstruck by Elaine Lee. And I took on between 30 to 40 parts, playing the ship's computer who had serious identity problems. So I got to do James Mason and Tim Gunn and Christopher Walken and Hal from 2001. Third production, Titanium Rain, getting not one but two nominations at the Audies, which is the Oscars of the audiobook industry. Getting to work on winning actually an Audie for the Starling Project with Alfred Molina. Getting to work on the X-Files. I mean, I'm now part of the fabric of one of the most popular franchises in television history. That would not have happened if we had not pushed to do this as an audio drama. Hopefully, Audible has told me in the past that they do want to finish it, and I hope that's very soon, because, man, the cigarette smoking is not getting any younger. But it hasn't been one moment; it's been a number of moments, because you always get that feeling of, especially in the last couple of years, did I make a mistake? You know, there's always those moments of self-doubt, those moments of recrimination, those moments of regret. Anybody who says no regrets, BS. We all have regrets. We just won't acknowledge them. But for me, there's always been that aha moment. What's great is that it comes after that period of, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
So it's the time.
And I think this is something that we've all got to look forward to.
Yeah.
Is if we have the doubt, the aha will come. So again, we're getting a little bit close to time. If someone is listening and they're on the cusp of wanting to start their own podcast or to tell their own story, what is the best piece of advice you could offer them? Maybe something that you would have liked to have known before you started, something you've come across along the way, any of that. If somebody just was thinking, I'm thinking, what would you like to do, Matthew?
Do it. First and foremost, do it. Like I said earlier, I shot a movie in like 2000, and I went almost 20 some years without doing anything. And I regretted all that time wasted, because like everyone in this panel and through this whole fest, I'm a storyteller first and foremost. And stories come and go all the time. And even though I'm in it now and I'm in it for the long haul, I can't get back that 20-year gap that I didn't do anything, because I can only imagine where I might be now versus had I started back then and had more experience. And like someone said earlier, I'm still learning, but time is definitely our friend. It's also our enemy, and you never know how much of it you have. So keep going, keep creating, and don't stop under any circumstances.
Be a critical listener. That's the first thing I was told before I even started work on my first production. Be a critical listener. Listen to the works of people who have done it before you did. People like Tom Lopez, in my case, Tom Lopez of ZBS Foundation. People like the late Yuri Rosovsky, who did a lot of work for Blackstone Audio, and before that for Public Radio. Listen to what works. Listen to what doesn't work. There's a lot of good material out there. There's also a lot of crap, without trying to. That's the reality, though, of just about anything that involves self-publishing, where there are no gatekeepers involved. There is a lot of bad material out there. Listen to what is working. Listen to what is not working. That doesn't mean that you spend years and years trying to perfect your craft and saying, oh, this is never going to be good enough. At some point, it has to be good enough that you put it out there. But you can also pay attention to what works and what doesn't work, even from professionals who have done it. If you think that I've done something, that's fine. I'll disagree with you, but that's perfectly fine. It's your journey. It's your experience that you're putting forth. It's your DNA in this piece. But that doesn't mean that it has to be something that is going to, when it goes out there, is going to get a lot of bad reviews, because you really didn't put the time into the story. You didn't put the time in the actors' performances. You didn't put the time and energy into the mix, which I think is one of the most important parts of it, or the pacing or whatever. Be a critical listener of other people's material and then of your own. Seriously.
Jane, what would you like to offer as a piece of advice?
Yes, I echo what both of these two gentlemen have said. And the other piece would be just don't listen to that voice in your head that's telling you you've got to wait till it's perfect. It doesn't matter. You don't want the regrets, like Matthew
Yes.
said. You don't want the regrets, so just do it. You're out there working out at the gym in front of the whole world. Everyone sees you as you're learning and grow, but just do it because you don't want the regrets. So just do it. You
Yes.
just have to do it. That's it. You just have to do it.
And you don't have to publish straight away, is what people don't understand with audio. Is you can put it together, you can play around, you can have it ready to go. And if you're not happy or if you're still learning, you can always go back. You can remix, you can remaster, you can put all the lessons that you learn back into that first episode. But I'm absolutely with you. Diana?
I'd say that festivals really help. Like
Diana,
festivals,
what do you think?
and the thing is that you can learn a lot of stuff from watching movies and get ideas and say, oh, that works, that doesn't work, like it's been mentioned before. But also they can give you ideas. Like I put a screenplay in the first one and someone said, well, when are you going to make a movie out of it? And I hadn't even considered that. So I just went, okay. So then I did, but I hadn't even thought about something like that. So it's like every time you talk with other people, I feel like you get information and feedback, and especially from people that are a little more seasoned than you are, like maybe get in a writing group or something. And then you get people that offer advice that it's just second nature to them, but is, wow, that's really cool and new to you. So I would say interaction with other humans, if you want to call them, because you get so much advice from the seasoned people.
Anna, can I bring up something just really, really quickly based on what you just said?
Yep. Oh, we've got.
Make it just really quick about the audio first. Don't make it about the ancillary rights. One of the big problems that we're having in podcasting right now are the number of networks that were being formed for the sole purpose of turning podcasts into television shows, podcasts into movies, that IP farms were being created in Hollywood in order to do exactly that. And the end result is some of those bad materials I've been talking about, they've been podcasts that have come out from major networks. A lot of backing behind
We've got a little bit of time left.
Well,
only a squidge of time left.
Yeah. So make it about the audio first. There you go.
Yeah. I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I just want to grab Jonah before we go.
Yeah, I wanna jump on all of that. I'm a teacher, so I put my hand up in class. But I want to jump on all of that in terms of like it may be a cliche to say like using your passions, but this medium is so beautiful in the way that you can really bring anything to life. You can use any sound you can create to tell anyone that anything is going on, if any of that makes sense. It's actually even more freeing than visual storytelling, than written storytelling, because you can create any kind of scape that you can imagine if you can. Just use that and make whatever comes to mind.
I think it's fantastic. So many wonderful stories, so many wonderful pieces of advice, and of course, this is something we do. We do love it. I know it's a business, Lance, but I know that you wouldn't be doing it if you didn't love it. These are the finalists of the New Zealand Web Fest 2024 Standalone Fiction. What an incredible group of creatives! Thank you so much for your time, for joining us. I know the hours are all different, and I really appreciate the time and effort you've made today to join us. Thank you.
Thank you.